Wind River Country, Wyoming. Late winter. The north wind drives fine snow flat across the ground. Two men lie pressed against the frozen earth under a single hide. No timber, no shelter. One dying fire spitting sparks into the dark. By morning, one of them cannot stand. This is the story of the men who slept where sleep meant death, and the brutal craft that kept them alive. The mountain men were the most self-reliant survivalists in American history. Men who turned a dead buffalo, a bed of branches, and a single live coal into the thin line between a night's rest and a frozen grave. Start with the word itself. Mountain man, not trapper, not hunter. Mountain man, a man defined by the place that was trying to kill him. They appeared after 1822, when a newspaper ad in St. Louis called for enterprising young men to ascend the Missouri River for beaver. A few thousand answered over the next 20 years. Beaver pelts were fortune money, a good winter coat for a gentleman in the East, a felt top hat for a banker. But the beaver was thickest, and its fur densest, exactly where the winters were deadliest. The high Rockies, 7, 8, 9,000 feet up. To get rich, a man had to sleep where nothing warm-blooded should. The name wasn't a title. It was a sentence. The first weapon against the cold was the buffalo robe, a hide taken in winter when the coat was thickest, tanned with the fur left on. Folded double, fur below against the frozen ground, fur above against the body. It sealed a man's own heat around him. The trapper Rufus Sage called his bed an article neither complex in its nature nor difficult in its adjustment. One robe, a rock for a pillow, a blanket thrown over. In it, he wrote, a man contentedly enjoys his rest. But a robe alone was a lie the mountains told you. On a calm night, it worked. Add wind, and the cold crept through every crevice. Add wet, and the fur matted and failed. Men who trusted the robe and nothing else woke up frostbitten, or did not wake up. So they learned to build under the robe. Spruce and pine boughs, cut thick and layered into a mattress, lifted the body off the earth. Because the real killer was never only the air, it was the ground, pulling heat straight out of the spine. Fix the ground, and you had a chance, which led to the next problem. Fire. A mountain man didn't sleep beside a fire. He slept inside its heat. Borrowing from native peoples, he built the flames against a reflector, a boulder, a fallen log, a cut bank, so heat bounced back over the sleeper instead of bleeding into the night. Some built a long fire, raked the coals aside, and slept on the warmed earth beneath. Ground that held heat for hours. But fire depended on fuel and flint. Above the tree line, or out on the open plains, there was no wood, only sagebrush, small and scarce and scattering, as James Clyman wrote, a fire the wind blew in all directions. And a flintlock spark is useless when your hands are too numb to close. The answer was to stop traveling and hole up. When the streams froze and beaver work stopped, trappers wintered in sheltered valleys. Many bought a used teepee from the Crow, Shoshone, or Flathead, a warm, fire-centered lodge that shrugged off a blizzard. Many married into those nations and learned to read snow, wind, and cold from people who had survived it for 1,000 years. That knowledge was survival, but it only helped the man who reached camp in time. Out on the trail, alone, the system could still fail. Winter, 1824. James Clyman and William Sublette would one day become a titan of the fur trade, rode out from a Crow village to hunt. Late in the day, miles from any timber, they dropped a lone buffalo bull. Meat, a small victory. Then the north wind rose. No wood, no shelter, only scattered sagebrush that wouldn't hold a flame. They spread their scanty bed and, Kleiman wrote, covered ourselves as close as possible from the wind and snow which found its way through every crevice. It wasn't enough. His own words, the cold, hard, frozen earth on which we lay was still more disagreeable, so that sleep was out of the question. No boughs, no barrier. The ground was draining the life out of them both. To survive, they refused to sleep. To sleep was to die. By first light, William Sublette was nearly gone. Kleiman tried to make fire. His hands were too numb to grip flint and steel. The wind killed every spark. Sublette wrapped himself in his robe and lay back down, and Kleiman knew exactly what that meant. He saddled his horse to ride for his life, but he could not leave his friend. He asked Sublette if he could ride. Sublette said no, he would not even try. So Kleiman made one last effort. He pushed his bare hand into the cold ashes of the dead fire, and there, buried in the gray, a single live coal. Not larger than a grain of corn, he dropped it into a handful of tinder, breathed on it. In 1 minute, a blaze, one coal, the size of a kernel, standing between two men and eternity. 4 miles of timber still lay ahead. Kleiman lifted his half-frozen friend onto the horse and walked in front, breaking trail through a foot of snow until they reached a grove, and a broken-down Indian shelter still standing on one side. He built a fire. He dragged Sublette to it. He broiled meat on a stick until the man came back to life. Both survived. Sublette went on to build an empire. So how did the mountain men sleep through freezing nights? A buffalo robe folded double, a bed of boughs above the killing ground, a fire banked against a stone, and when every one of those failed, a bare hand in cold ashes and the refusal to close their eyes. They were the most self-reliant survivalists America ever produced because the mountains gave them no other option. The next time you zip a warm sleeping bag shut, remember James Kleiman on the Wind River, digging through dead ashes with a frozen hand, betting 2 lives on a spark the size of a grain of corn. The mountains gave them freedom. Every single night they paid for it.